Hello, in this recording, I would like to do a little demo of a feature that can be very useful for compensation administrators, which is called the Executive Review Import feature. So as you probably know, if you are a system administrator, the Executive Review is a way to get a consolidated views of employees that are maybe in different worksheets being validated by different approvers, but using the executive review and role-based permission, which is the SuccessFactors security module, you can give yourself a full scope or grant people a specific scope so that they can view and validate budgets on a specific business unit or division or country, for example. And in many ways, this feature called the Executive Review Import can be useful, especially at the end of a compensation process where all the worksheets have been approved by the planners and are back to the comp admin inbox for final validation with HR directors and CEOs. And what it allows essentially is to export whatever has been filtered using the filters in the executive review, and it allows you to re-import recommendations on editable columns of the worksheet. So we can see here that we can change the value for the recommendation for Gavin here. So this is what I mean by editable. It's something you can click on screen, and these fields that are editable, whether it's a drop down or it's a money format, they will be available for re-import and modifications. So I will do an example and we will filter first on maybe only Gavin and Lucy, and we'll also take a look at the new enhanced executive review filters here. So if I want to do, I can filter on, I can say find user and select only Gavin and Lucy. That's one of the great things about this new enhanced executive review. Is that you previously you can only either filter, select all employees or from a manager, all employees reporting to a specific planner or one by one. But now you can actually decide and look them up here and then just select Lucy and maybe Joseph as well. Okay, so click OK. So now we have these three employees and we want to mass import recommendations. Um, Usually I think this executive review import feature is more useful if you have a lot of changes to make. Um, but you can also do it for three employees, which is what we're going to do. So here I click export and then I select I want to add my composition changes in the exported file and re-import. Then click the export button. And depending on how many employees you're exporting, when it's a small amount, it will automatically generate the file. If it's a large amount, it will put it in the scheduled jobs, which you can find in reporting, and then you go to classic, you click on in the top right corner after clicking in reporting, you'll have classic view there, and you can click on classic view and then go to schedule report, which will be on the left side, and that's where you'll find the mass exported file. So here we have it already, so we're going to open it and take a look at what you get when you use this feature. So here's what you get. The first column is the field ID. So this is unique for each template. So you cannot just take an exported file for employees that were in worksheets generated with one template and load it into a separate template. It's always going to be unique and created based on the worksheet the employee was added on. So it's not a user ID, and it will be different every time you launch a worksheet with a different template. And then if we scroll to the right, essentially the only columns you can modify, like as I said in the beginning, are the ones that are editable on screen, and they are highlighted in yellow in this file. So here we can see the different merit increase that were already in the system before we ran the export. So let's say we want to change the 30 to 5,000, and then 1,000 to 500, and then this to 3,000. Um, let's make this 4,000 actually. Okay, so we have our three changes here. We could also do 100 in lump sum and 500 in adjustment here. And then all we have to do is save the file, go back to the executive review, and click on Import, select Choose File, select it from the downloads. So that would be this one. It's always good to do a time check versus the current time, and import. So you get a confirmation message here that the file was submitted to the server to be processed. So the next step is now to go to Monitor Compensation Jobs, this one. And here you're going to see your job here. It's already completed because it was only for 3 users, so it goes pretty fast when it's a small amount of entries. And what I recommend to do is always to download the status of the job and open it so that you can see if it worked or not before even going back and checking in the executive review. So here it says number of plan entries successfully updated 3. So we can now go back and just do a quick check just to be sure. So go back to compensation and then executive review, then salary planning. And then if we scroll to the right, now we can see the amounts that we entered here. So the amounts are always to be entered in the local currency of the employee, unless the template has been built on a functional centric setting, which is very rare, less than probably probably only 10% of implementation. Most implementations are local currency centric because Employee Central is built to accommodate local currencies. So for most customers, store their employees' data and compensation information in the local currency of the country. So yeah, so when you put your information in the file to be uploaded, you need to calculate them and put them um, in the local currency amount. A question I often get is, can we upload a percentage? Unfortunately, no. If you wanted to do a percentage adjustment, you have to use this comp admin only feature called Mass Action. And actually, I don't think Mass Action lets you use percentages. You can decrease by a certain amount of the local currency. Um, yeah, so I don't think there's a way to do it using percentages, unfortunately. It would have to be an amount. And then one other thing to know about the executive review import and export feature is actually that you cannot do it if you have a hard custom validation configured for your template. So I'll explain what a hard custom validation is by going to another template that I prepared for this recording, in which I configured a validation, a hard validation. What is a hard validation? It's essentially a column that you build in the template that will prevent a save if under certain conditions. So here I click OK, and if I click Save, um, I configured a hard custom validation that prevents a save in case an employee meets a specific condition. And here I built a very basic one that says if the employee has a merit increase, then give me a hard validation. So it's not very, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's preventing any increase on merit, which in a normal cycle would not happen. Otherwise, there's no point in building a merit column. But it was just for demo purposes to build something really easy to demo. And so, so because of when you have a hard validation in your template, you cannot use the import feature unless you switch the hard validation to soft validation, a warning only validation. So I'll show you now how to do that and how to successfully re-import um, after making edits. So here I have to switch it back to 0 if I want to be able to save because of my custom validation rule that runs in the back that is not visible here but is configured. So now that I've saved, I will show you first the message that you will get if you don't switch the custom validation configuration from hard to soft warning by going to, I think it was this one that I ran before the recording. So you'll get this type of error messages. Whatever change you're trying to make, it will always fail for all the people in your file. That being said, let's see how to fix this. So like I said, you can keep the worksheets that are in the system. All you have to do is go to Design Worksheet and scroll to the custom validation column you built, which for me should be by merit here. And in the settings of the column, switch custom validation from error to warning and simply save. And that will apply to worksheets that are already live. And now that it's saved, you can go back to executive review, make the change, and it will work. So I don't think I will demo it again. We saw the case earlier, but that was an important thing as custom validations are being more and more used in implementations. It's important to highlight this. Um, let's finish this recording by explaining how to turn on this feature. In case you're wondering, you're watching this video and you're looking at your own environment and you're not seeing these export and import button at the bottom of your executive review access as a system administrator. The reason is that it's probably not permissioned correctly. So let's take a look at how to turn it on and make it appear. So there are um, there's a first step, which is a setting in the comp module admin tools under actions for all plans. And then under company settings, you want to click these two boxes called enable role-based permission for executive review export and enable role-based permission for executive review import. That will give you access to control this feature through role-based permission, and typically there's always a specific role for comp administrator, and then you can grant comp administrator it will be called something similar in RBP, executive review export and import. So the reason it's not showing for you is probably that even though these two check boxes are checked maybe, the role that your user has in role-based permission doesn't have these boxes checked. So let's take a look at where once you make sure that these are checked, where in role-based permission you will find these two checkboxes. So if you have access to role-based permission, which typically a compensation administrator doesn't have access, is not a full system admin, so you would probably have to request access from your full system administrator. So if I go and become self and I take a look at the different roles, and in this environment, actually, I'm not too sure which role comp admin is tied to. So I'll show you how to figure out which security role any user has in SuccessFactors. So as long as you have access as a full system admin to set user permissions, you can do a view user permission. Click here and then search for the user you want to find out which permission it has. So here, comp admin, and then click. And then in this pop-up, if you want to see because sometimes users are tied to different security roles. So if you want to find out which security role is granting a specific permission, you would check for the name of the specific permission. So in our case, it would be executive review export and import. And so we see them here, and they're actually granted in this environment, they're granted by MC super user role. MC stands for model company. So we're going to go inside this role and we're going to modify sorry, not in this environment, but you as a system administrator, if you want to turn on the export import feature, you would have to identify the way I just I just did it here, which role comp admin is tied to in your environment, and then grant these two permissions here. So these four actually, export and then import, because you cannot re-import unless you have export permissions. So you can see how it's different for compensation and variable pay. So if you want to be able to use it for a variable pay summary rows as well, you want to make sure that you grant these two accesses. I think this concludes this topic. I hope it was useful, and please comment if you have any questions on this. Thank you.